We love finished products. They're clean, they're polished, they're done. We celebrate outcomes, but we ignore the work that made them possible. The truth is, almost everything we admire is supported by work we never see. This is Cultivating Intelligence. I had a moment recently where I saw someone's finished pottery work. Beautiful glaze, perfect shaped, no imperfections. It looked effortless, and my first thought was, wow, they made that look easy. Then I caught myself because I know better. I've destroyed many pounds of clay. Nothing that's good is effortless. It just looks that way when you're only seeing the final version. Think about art. What you see is the finished painting, the final photograph, the completed sculpture, the perfect pirouettes. What you don't see, the sketches, the failed attempts, the abandoned concepts, the hundreds of decisions nobody will ever know were made. Artists spend years developing their crafts, years learning what doesn't work, years building skills that become so natural they disappear. The highest levels of mastery often become invisible. The better someone gets, the less effort you notice. And that creates a strange illusion. We assume something was easy because it looks easy, but often the opposite is true. The things that look effortless usually required the most effort. Nature works the same way. Walk through a forest. What do you see? Trees, maybe wildlife, a peaceful landscape. But that's only the surface. Underneath your feet is an entire hidden economy. Roots exchanging nutrients, fungi creating vast communication networks, microorganisms breaking down organic matter, water moving through soil systems, seeds waiting years for the right condition, trees supporting other trees, life constantly negotiating with life. A mature forest isn't just a collection of trees. It's millions of relationships operating simultaneously. And almost all of that work is invisible. The forest you admire today may have taken decades or centuries to become what it is. What looks effortless from the outside is actually the result of countless processes working together in harmony. The same is true of ecosystems: a healthy river, a coral reef, a prairie, or a wetland. We tend to notice them only when something goes wrong, but every day they're performing extraordinary work, filtering water, storing carbon, supporting biodiversity, maintaining balance, and creating conditions for life. Entire systems quietly doing their jobs without recognition. And maybe that is the lesson. The most important work is often the least visible. Now think about human systems: a major event, a concert, a championship game, a successful conference, a new product launch. What do we see? The opening moment, the presentation, the performance, the ribbon cutting, the crowd. What don't we see? Months of planning, logistics, permits, vendor coordination, rehearsals, scheduling, contingency planning, budget management, thousands of small decisions, hundreds of people doing work that nobody applauds. When everything goes well, it feels seamless. But seamless isn't the absence of work. Seamless is evidence that the work happened. The same thing applies to great teams. People often praise successful leaders, successful companies, successful organizations, but rarely do we talk about the invisible work underneath: trust, alignment, difficult conversations, conflict resolution, knowledge sharing, coaching, documentation, process improvement. The best teams don't become great during the big moment. They become great during hundreds of small moments nobody notices. The meeting before the meeting, the preparation before the presentation, the practice before the performance, the work before the work. And then there are the accomplishments that become so iconic we forget they were ever built at all. Think about the Gateway Arch in St. Louis. Millions of people have stood beneath it or taken the ride to the top, taken pictures, admired it. But what they're seeing is the visible result. What they aren't seeing is the engineering, the design calculations, the manufacturing and logistics, the years of planning, the manual labor, the thousands of workers and specialists and decisions required to turn an idea into reality. Or think about any famous bridge, any cathedral, any skyscraper, any monument. Humanity tends to remember the finished object. History forgets most of the labor. Yet the labor is what made the achievement possible. Even our own lives work this way. People see promotions, awards, successful businesses, published books, finished projects. They don't see the years before those moments, the learning, the uncertainty, the mistakes, the late nights, the false starts, the persistence. And because we don't see those things, we create impossible comparisons. We compare our behind the scenes footage to someone else's highlight reel. We compare our unfinished work to someone else's finished masterpiece. And then we wonder why we feel behind. But every masterpiece has a backstage. Every forest has a root system. Every ecosystem has hidden relationships. Every successful team has invisible trust. Every achievement has thousands of forgotten moments underneath it. Even AI works this way. People see a response, an image, a result. What they don't see are the datasets, the infrastructure, the training cycles, testing and refinement, prompt iterations, the human knowledge embedded throughout the process. Again and again, the pattern repeats. The visible outcome rests on the invisible foundations. Maybe that's why hidden work deserves more respect, because outcomes can be misleading. The finished product is just the tip of the iceberg. The real story lives underneath. The part nobody photographs, the part nobody applauds, the part nobody posts online. The roots, the preparation, the practice, the repetition, and the patience. That's where growth happens. That's where mastery happens. That's where intelligence, human, natural, or artificial, is actually cultivated. So the next time you see something remarkable, whether it be a forest, a work of art, a thriving team, an iconic landmark, any extraordinary accomplishment, pause for a moment and remember, you're looking at the visible result of invisible work. And invisible work is what makes everything possible. Next time, when to let go. This is Cultivating Intelligence.
This podcast explores ideas at the intersection of art, nature, and AI. The perspectives shared are intended to inspire curiosity and conversation, not to serve as professional advice. As with any evolving field, listeners are encouraged to think critically and seek additional perspectives.